Takashi Machizuki says out. Sony is working on a standalone handheld game machine to attract more gamers to its PlayStation community. Right? The actual thing that he's talking about is it's a PlayStation 5 portable is what they're working on. And it's something that they're looking to work to come out in a few years. So you say a few years, that's 3, and then with delay or more, right? So you're talking, 3 to 4 years. So you're literally talking 2027 to 2028. Okay. So again, theoretically, based off of what we talked about before with the PlayStation 5 Pro, we shouldn't sorry, this mic, I can hear it still. It's still there we go. So what we talked about before with the PlayStation 5 Pro, they came out, they told us 10 years, right? We all assumed, yeah, it's 10 years, but that's going to be with another console coming out and things like that. But I can't, I don't see a world where in 3 years or 4 years, they come out and say, hey, here's our new PlayStation 6. Oh, and also here's our new handheld that's a PlayStation 5. You know what I'm saying?
Who knows? Who knows? This is not the way we see it, but the gallopers were out there saying that the PlayStation 6 was gonna be cheaper than the Pro. Maybe because it won't exist. So they won't have to pay for it. Oh, these gallopers. What a messy day for them. I don't see them going ahead and releasing a PlayStation 6 and then going ahead and having a PlayStation handheld portable, whatever the heck it is that they're gonna be making. It seems like they're working, obviously they're saying that they're working on a handheld to expand, right? To kind of go ahead and reach others. Um Shoot, what is that going we can't predict. First of all, they're announcing this and this is years off. So I can't necessarily think that this is a guarantee until I see it kind of happening because of the way that they've done things. So we'll see how this plays out. I don't I It depends on where the sales are though. So moving forward from there, will they go ahead and make a freaking console? I feel like they will be so far off from Xbox that at that point they may feel like why even bother? Even if those are the plans, right? I feel like they're kind of setting themselves up to this is like lingering and then essentially potentially just giving up.
Agreed.
Or maybe this is their way to kind of put a pin on it even though they know what the outcome is supposed to be? Could this be why Shu is also out, knowing that there's not gonna be another box, that
I
they're
mean,
gonna
that's why it's kind of like,
this
why stay?
handheld and this is it?
Like, what future do I have? Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not a steady one, right? It's certainly with
No,
its
absolutely not.
issues and ups and downs, uncertainty. So now they're pivoting. This reminds me of, man, I mean, Nintendo was pivoting for the better. They went ahead and they stopped making the DS to just go ahead and kind of gel it all together, but this is, like, sad.
Well, I have the actual article now because I just put my email in to get the free article because that was kind of crappy of them. But whatever. So I have it here. So here's the article. It says Sony working on handheld console for PlayStation 5 games. Okay, it's for PlayStation 5 games. All right. To rival Switch. Okay. Nintendo Switch has dominated mobile console space for years. Rival Microsoft is also developing portable gaming prototypes. So this is the story. It says Sony Group Corp is in the early stages of developing a portable console that would play its PlayStation 5 games on the move.
Okay, so let me
The
ask you a question. Does this mean that they're gonna be able to kind of dock it and it's like a Switch? What are they
no
working on? Because if this
handheld.
is Yeah, because you can't go ahead and say it's because of Nintendo. Nintendo is way beyond,
They're just
you
talking about
know.
having like a physical handheld, meaning, there's certain people who have a Switch who
Okay,
just
so
use it in
what
handheld
I'm
mode.
saying, what I'm trying to get to is that you can't deliver a handheld and not a console. I think that they did say 10 years from now. I just don't know if 10 years from now that's
Talking about the
actually gonna
Pro?
go ahead and play out. I'm thinking of the box
Yeah, so right
with
now,
this
this is
handheld.
just
This is wild.
yeah,
Go ahead,
this is
continue.
just so again, Sony Group Corp is in the early stages developing a portable console that would play its PlayStation 5 games on the move. The product is aimed at expanding Sony's reach and contending with Nintendo Co. for the portable gaming market, according to people familiar with its development. It would also counter any potential mobile hardware from Xbox maker Microsoft Corp, which is working on prototypes in the category as well. Sony's portable device is likely years away from launch, and the company could still decide against bringing it to market. The people that said asking not to be named, discussing private plans. So let me tell you, I tell you the exact scenario right now. They're trying to make this thing to be able to work on PlayStation 5 games, right? So that they can keep the games being played in a different way, which is handheld, right? But they're going to be releasing it after Xbox drops next gen. And I think they are going to see how the developers are moving. If the developers are still going to be making the games the same way for PlayStation 5, like the same, like they're not going to be degrading it a lot, I think they're going to be checking out how far Xbox goes with next gen before they decide what to do with the handheld, which is wild that they do they literally, Shuhei just said it, pioneering. It's like this is all
It
they're
all
doing now.
depends on what Xbox does at this point. That's
100%.
that's how they move forward. Um, I Cage, you read my mind, but beautifully put. It was so hard not to say something.
So they continue. The idea builds on the PlayStation Portal, an 8-inch handheld device Sony released in 2023 that allows users to play PlayStation 5 games by streaming them over the internet. Tokyo based Sony initially had intended for it to function as a standalone device like Valve's Steam Deck, the people said. So they were first trying to make it an actual device and then backed out.
They gave up. They didn't back out. They were like, "You know what? This is good enough." So
Uh,
now they're tweaking and trying to figure out how to go ahead and really figure out the tech.
They continue building a mobile device that's capable of directly playing PlayStation 5 games will potentially make Sony software more accessible and appealing to a wider audience. The company has taken several steps into recent times in that direction, including making a bigger push into mobile and PC gaming as well as live service titles. One of the big things that you got to remember about handheld, when you have a handheld console, there's no disk drive, right? So even if you're somebody who has a disk drive PlayStation 5, if you buy the portable handheld, right, that has no drive, you essentially would have to commit to buying the digital versions of the
Digital
games that
games,
you
and
have.
developers don't like they want their physical copy that they can go back and sell, and because 'cause they're not broke, right? So they like to go back and sell it so they can afford their next game.
I mean, they're definitely pushing it, right? They're pushing them to say, "Yeah, I know some of you still like this disc, but if you want to play on your handheld, you better go double dip and buy the digital version," right? So he said a Sony spokeswoman declined to comment. Mobile gaming, which brings in the bulk of the industry's revenue each year, is today dominated by smartphones. Nintendo's Switch console has carved out a lucrative niche for itself by offering the versatility of being playable both on the move and connected to a TV set. Its successor is expected to be released in 2025 and will retain compatibility with Nintendo's rich library of existing Switch titles. potentially sparking an upgrade cycle among users of the nearly 8-year-old console. That new Switch is gonna be huge, dude.
Yeah.
It's gonna be super huge. Sony and Microsoft have not competed with their own portable gaming hardware for years, following popular but ultimately unsuccessful products like the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation Portable, which were discontinued a decade
Oh,
ago.
what's gonna happen to their handheld? What's gonna happen to their handheld? If only we can predict the future. If there were trades or things that we reference that we can go ahead and take a peek at and see how this is gonna all end. The most interesting thing about this was the conversation about Nintendo towards the end and what they're gonna do with their new console.
Man, dude, they're going to release or they're working on doing this handheld. Look, we talked about this in the past. Nintendo changed the game,
They did.
right? They changed the game of what should be expected because we do have handhelds that exist that are not the Switch. We have the Steam Deck, we have the ROG Ally, we have the Logitech G Cloud, we have the MS Claw or whatever. Like there's so many, right? There's a bunch of these things that are out there. So, at what point does it not make sense when Nintendo was able to deliver a handheld and a console all in one package? Does PlayStation and Microsoft not kind of make that make sense, right? Kind of put that together and say, okay, and Microsoft is saying on their next console, we're going to do a similar two SKU deal where we'll have, the biggie and the smalls. The difference is the biggie is going to be a home console, the smalls is going to be a handheld, right? That makes sense, right? That makes perfect sense, especially this day and age. Nintendo has set that future up. You can't let them just dominate that way, right?
I
Like you can't.
agreed. And having Xbox step into that and have Game Pass there in a library of games that are gonna be available, to play on that handheld, that's exciting. And then you think about PlayStation having a handheld and how their future is looking when it comes to software. Obviously, third-party games, but they're gonna have to really lean into that. So, these things are not necessarily cheap. When you have the option of going ahead and you have Nintendo, they make their games, you know what they do, and they're very known for it. Noted. Xbox, Game Pass, the amount of games that they're making, their studios, and then you get your third party games. And Nintendo's coming in with third party games too. Let's not forget that, right? And then you
And they'll have
have
Xbox games.
exactly. And then you have PlayStation with a handheld, dry.
The problem is when they're looking to do their handheld, right? Like if this was like, hey, PlayStation to make native handheld possibly release next year. Oh, wow.
They don't even know. They don't
But
even
no,
know.
no, we do know. They're saying years from now. You
Yes,
know what I'm
years
saying?
from now,
Years from now.
they don't have anything certain where they're saying in 2025, here we go,
But why
coming
would this
out.
even sorry for
Go ahead.
cutting you real quick, but I think the biggest question is why would this even be in their minds? Why? Why would this be in Sony's mind to sit here and say, years from now, I think we should drop a handheld that plays our PlayStation 5 games? What does that
Like
mean?
that they're not moving forward. They're not
That's
moving
that's it.
forward.
They're
That's
not.
it. That's
I
it.
don't
They're not moving forward. This is it. Years from now, a PlayStation 5 Portal?
oh, PlayStation 5 portable?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like what are we talking about here?
that's the thing. Years from now, we will be in next gen with Xbox. How does that make sense to like what excitement are you going to do? Like, first of all, the portal is already out right now, right? It
Yes.
is not native for sure, but if you want to play, the games that are on your PlayStation, you can stream from there, or if you want to play just from, the cloud or whatever, you can stream from there. right? So people who really have like that itch, like, oh man, I need a PlayStation Portable, it exists now, right? So as much as that's a availability right now, like what is going to be the fact that what I could play it native PlayStation 5 like years from now PlayStation 5 games? Why? That must mean that the PlayStation 5 is still going to be the dominant platform for Sony come that time. There's no way you could be there's no way. There's no way for them that they could be saying to themselves, "Yeah, when we come out with a PlayStation 6, we're also gonna come out with a handheld." I don't think so, dude. I think the more that this stuff keeps coming out, the more these little things keep popping out, the more that whole idea that there's no PlayStation 6 and that it'll just be an app. I mean, think about it. It makes sense. They already have a portal that can stream the stuff, right? You put out a handheld that can play native PlayStation 5 games and then just stream whatever the PlayStation 6 is, like whatever app that becomes.
So this is the problem. The the PlayStation 5 Pro didn't have any type of hype when it comes to the games, right? Had they gone ahead and done that, people would have probably bought it more than
At
they
least
did.
wanted
At
it.
least want it.
Like people just
Yes,
don't want it. You know what I'm
exactly,
saying?
exactly. So when you're thinking of everything that's happened, even if they did have the plans of going ahead and making a PlayStation 6, everything that's happened with their games, I think this is the key, right? How are they gonna move forward with the games? And if they can't excite you with games, seeing what happened with the Pro, how are they going to excite you for a PlayStation 6? So I don't, because in my mind, I'm kind of like, how do you walk away from that? You've sold the boxes, right? But you sold the boxes with the excitement of the games. There are 65.5 million PlayStation 5s out there. So, what lacked from the Pro, aside from obviously the tech, we're seeing now what it's doing. We're truly seeing what the PlayStation 5 is, which is a shame to hear that a freaking handheld for a PlayStation 5, it's what we're going to see years from now, considering the tech that's in PlayStation 5. We're seeing the reaction that the Pro is having with the pisser. It's not clicking, right? It's not working right now. So, are they gonna go ahead and be able to just fix that and figure it out? But the biggest thing is the games. Where are these games? They must be feeling a certain way. And again, we see the shoe is out, right? There's a problem there. And we've been saying it for a bit. What are they going to do and how are they going to move forward with these games and these new budgets? And these budgets were before Concord hit. And here we go with Lego Horizon, and here we go with Astrobot. So there's a bigger problem here. They're not going to go ahead and be able to deliver that. God of War and that Spider-Man and all these games that they're known for. So if you don't have the games to push the box, who's gonna buy the box?
Agreed. And to be clear, like I'm not knocking PlayStation making a handheld console. Um, Actually, I prefer it. I wish Xbox had a native console, you know, that was theirs, and you know, same thing with PlayStation. Um, I would prefer it myself. So, the
It's
thing though is
practical.
when the
It's an option to go ahead and kind of, play where you want, how you want, pick up and go and bring it with you. Like it's just accessible.
yeah, it's just literally just the question is when. Why is it if you're planning years from now to release a PlayStation 5 handheld that doesn't line up with the idea that they're supposed to jump in 2027 or 2028 with a PlayStation 6.
That doesn't even line up with the idea of competing in any way. Like, coming out here and kind of staying on top of things.
It's
These
such
consoles
a
were usually
random.
back to back.
What do you mean like the different companies?
Yeah.
Well, that was the old time when they kind of lined back up, but remember Xbox did jump with the 360. They went early. They said, "F this, we're gonna start the new gen," and they did, and they dominated. Then the year later, PlayStation came out, and it wasn't enough, and it took a while for them to finally catch up.
And that
Now
was just a year, right?
that was a
So,
year difference, right?
imagine they're probably foreseeing how this is going
So
to play out.
so that's the problem, right? So is this gonna be literally like multiple years before there's another console, or is there just no console? You know what I'm saying? Like, does Xbox just get next gen to itself? Is all the dooming and glooming about Xbox not having, they're giving up on consoles, and is it
And is
just
it gonna
all
be the
that for
only option?
PlayStation? Is it just gonna be PlayStation who's out? Who's like, you could keep buying the Pro, you could keep buying the regular PlayStation. You could buy this new and exciting handheld that's for the PlayStation 5. I don't know, man. That seems it feels more and more like there is no PlayStation 6 coming. I know we had heard that there was, talk about the making one, but the plans can change. You know what I'm saying? That was years that they've been talking about making a new one. Hiroki Totoki's here now. And the question is, does he look at this and say, we haven't made what we need to make to justify moving on from this generation?
That's
Does
the
he
thing.
say to himself, most of our customers are not playing our games? They're just playing Fortnite. They're just playing Call of Duty. And we're going to bet that if we just keep making PlayStation 5 only and don't move on to PlayStation 6, we're going to bet that Fortnite is still going to be on PlayStation 5. We're going to bet that Microsoft is still going to make Call of Duty for PlayStation 5. And we're going to bet that even if Microsoft comes out with the next gen, these casual people that we have on our box are not going to jump to move. So we're just going to keep our PlayStation 5 out for the long run. What made you laugh so much?
I mean, it seems like Remo Drake had an interview and he asked about this. Rocky said, "We're too Rocky."
Oh my god. Uh yeah, I mean it makes
Oh
sense. It makes sense. I mean, that's the reality of it, right?
my god.
But literally though, like that's what this makes me feel. That when I hear this, the fact that in a few years they're planning on bringing out a handheld at a time where next gen should really be the shine, right? Like it,
Exactly.
and it should be a next gen handheld, right? But that's not what they're aiming for. It's a PlayStation 5 handheld, which means they don't want to be pressured. And then again, I mean, are we at a time where has PlayStation acknowledged that they're no longer competing with Xbox? Like,
Have
are
they
they saying to
defeat?
themselves that Xbox is doing something that we cannot follow?
Rocky's too Rocky.
Hiroki Tsuboki. Um,
Listen, I mean, they should go ahead and understand that. They're running through their money like crazy, and they don't the problem is that the direction is still not there. They keep on wasting. I don't think that they're okay with that. So I think there's a possibility that even that things that may have been in the process of, even if they were working on a PlayStation 6, that may have taken a back seat. I think some things are paused until they kind of take a breather and figure out how Xbox is going to continue to move forward.
yeah, I mean that is very likely what's happening. I just think ultimately this is them giving way to Xbox saying we're not going to compete there. We can't buy a big publisher. We got to go. They're looking at this other place, and we know that it's from software. It's the publisher. They're
Like,
the
they
ones who went to
weren't looking.
them.
Yes, they came to them, so it's not like
And
there's a difference there, there's a difference. Are they shopping, right? If they're the ones looking rather than,
yeah, so like they didn't sign up for that shit. They didn't say, "Hey, this is what I want." There's some news that broke with that too that will probably break up into a separate, just talk about that specifically. The point is that I think that ABK deal went ahead and shattered everything PlayStation had planned. I think
yeah.
everything they had planned just collapsed. and they don't know what to do because the dollars that people are throwing around are too rich for their blood, right? They cannot compete with the amount of stuff that Xbox is going to be able to produce. I mean, literally, we already know full years between 2025 and 2026, possibly even 2027 game releases that Xbox is working on. What made you laugh?
Just the thought of that ABK deal, right? Like, they just they just grabbed
Laughing
a
for no
rope
reason.
and they were like, "You know what? Like, they just did this to themselves. Like, everything has been their own freaking doing. Just the deal, like, they setting through closing, that happening shook them to the point that they just took it upon themselves to do all this mess, to cause all these problems. They made really bad decisions with the thought that this ABK deal was gonna take them down. That essentially, like, Xbox just had to sit there and just release Call of Duty and, challenge them every time they made a move, but essentially, they were the ones who put out these games.
It's
They
true.
were the ones who made the decisions, the in-house decisions that are now we're seeing the consequences play out. These were made by them. They were shook. They were freaked out. This deal went through and this kind of just took over.
They had bigger ambitions, but it's too hard to do that, right? Like like they can't just decide, right, that oh, we're going to have this massive movement with games that don't support that idea, right? Like you can't just pretend to be able to make a splash without a game that can do that. And we know Phil Spencer was interviewed during the trial, and he they asked him about what will happen if the deal doesn't go through, right? If the deal doesn't go through, what's going to happen? Phil went ahead and said that he has a plan. It would just take longer. You know what I'm saying? So this was always their plan, right? This was always their end game. It was just going to take them longer to
They
do
were
it.
gonna take another route, yes, but
But now they
it was
have it.
never not going to be what they were heading to.
So
Um,
their ambition was always bigger than what PlayStation could ever imagine. See, PlayStation, they're a hardware company, so they need something to sell, right? They need a box to sell. They need all this stuff to sell. So their whole lives revolve around the idea of you need my box to use, right? You need to buy my TV. You need to buy my camera. You need to buy my console because we want you to engage with our ecosystem, which is fine, right? But that's their limiting place, right? They just want you to go ahead and buy their box. Whereas Xbox buying their box is just one of many roads to their ecosystem. And they have amplified that idea. They are pushing in a big direction that we never seen before, right? And that's why there's so much they kind of back and forth with this stuff because this is not normal for what consoles have been the last 30 years, right? It just is what it is, right? And we've seen all the commercials that Xbox is doing. And Tom Warren went ahead and made a comment on one of the on he put out a post actually. He just quote tweeted like the this is an Xbox, like their slogan now, like the commercial. And he has this is an Xbox thing. He says, I think this will make more sense soon. But so obviously something else is brewing here, right? Xbox is planning to probably show something else or do something else that continues to push it forward. I think maybe he's alluding to the handheld, right? I think he's alluding to the handheld, which is them getting ready to show it. Whether it's gonna come out is one thing, but I think he's alluding to a handheld.
yeah, I mean, Sarah, had mentioned that that we're gonna talk about tech, so it's bound to happen, and it could potentially be the handheld.
Agreed, right? So Xbox now is essentially in a whole different stratosphere, right? Like they're just in a whole new world where you're not getting this kind of strict way of doing things where PlayStation thrived, right? And I honestly, I look at this as them kind of conceding, saying, you know what, Xbox is doing something that is a whole different direction. We can't do that. We won't do that. What is God damn it?
Go ahead, go
No,
ahead,
tell me what's funny. Tell me.
go ahead, go
No, no,
ahead.
no. I
I'll tell
can't.
you after, I'll tell you after.
Mm. You sure? You could just tell me. Is
It's
it the
okay.
super chat?
No, no, no.
I didn't even notice
We'll
it.
look.
We got the homie Hiroki Tubroki.
Hiroki, Hiroki in the
With that
building.
$2 super
Shout
chat. Is
out
that
to
supposed to be him
Hiroki.
in the
What
picture?
is what does it say? What does it say?
Doodle with her hair back. I
Oh,
come in peace.
I'll pop these off real quick. No, what he's holding, what does it say?
Oh, I can't see that shit. There's no way I can see that picture. Zero opportunity or chance.
My gosh, shout out to Hiroki. He also says, "I'll dance for games."
Probably
He'll
not looking
dance
for
for
that.
games. And I don't know why, but, Kate is wondering, did Doodle buy CMoney a dictionary?
I don't know why the slander is necessary. I don't need a dictionary. Why? What did I say? Did I say something that sounded out of turn that I haven't seen? Harry Ballsack says
Yes, because that's how you sidestep this situation with Harry Ballsack.
that's his name. I'm not saying anything bad. That's his name. Uh says Sony has tried handhelds before, didn't work when PlayStation 2 was on top of the world. So so this is the thing, right?
Uh,
Harry Ballsack, you're
Harry.
100% right, right? You're right. But this is the problem. They again, let's be clear. Damn. Is this like the perfect view? Okay, you ready?
Go ahead.
PlayStation used to make handhelds.
They did.
Yeah, that competed with Nintendo, handhelds. But what happened? See, Nintendo obviously had a very thriving, handheld business. Um, the problem was developers for Nintendo, right? They kept like splitting it, right? Devs wanted to make, they said, oh, well, we want a Mario Kart for the handheld. So, okay, well, we're making Mario Kart 9 for the handheld or Mario Kart, whatever it was, 7. And it's like, okay, well, but that's not on the console now. So you have to wait for Mario Kart 8 for the like it just became an issue, right? Pokemon was on the handheld, but is there Pokemon going to be on the game? So they advanced, right? They created the Switch and they said no more division, we're making them both, right? Sony could not adapt. Okay. They could not get their big studios to make the handheld versions of these games. And the problem is they couldn't make handheld games that were able to compete with the bigger screen, right? Like what you would play on your TV. So you would get like this like this huge
Yeah.
degrade in quality and types of games. Like they were always like the little sibling of the game, right?
If
Like
that. Yeah.
yeah, like Uncharted Golden Abyss was actually pretty good, right? But again, it wasn't like Uncharted. It was on this little it just didn't work out the right way. Where now Nintendo's created this thing where it's like, hey, it's the same game, right? What
Holding
PlayStation is
socket
trying
is
to
the same
make
thing. Yep.
exactly. What PlayStation's trying to make is, hey, it's the same game, right? That was the killer of PlayStation's handheld is that the library, even though people loved the library, I didn't, but people loved the library of those handhelds. The fact is what people really wanted was to play their big games on the go, right? And they couldn't give them that, right? And that's why they ultimately left, right? That's why they bounced. But this new wave is not segregation. It's not about, hey, we're gonna make a handheld, and if you want to make a game, you have to choose whether you want to make a game for the console or do you want to make a game for a handheld. No, it's the game just works. You make it one game, it's gonna be playable everywhere. So that is where these consoles are trying to get, or these platformers trying to get to. But I think PlayStation is just snuggling into the PlayStation 5 generation. I think the Pro was not just a mid-gen refresh and is not a next-gen console. We know that they came out and said it, but I think that they are planning to ride the PlayStation 5 Pro for as long as humanly possible. And I think that includes past the time that the handheld comes out. So if that's the case, you're talking 2027, essentially at the earliest that the handheld will come out. And again, is a PlayStation 5 handheld, not a next gen handheld. So, I mean, you're talking this like 2030 before you see a new console, if any,
from PlayStation.
from PlayStation. We're getting ours in 2026, right? Which is
We'll see how that, handheld shows up though, but that's the thing, that's what I'm saying, like, it's so competitive right now. Nintendo really tapped into something that was missing, and everyone kinda jumped on board. You have to show up. I've said it about, Xbox, you gotta come correct with your handheld. You gotta do something that, kind of combines the best stuff, and I highly doubt that PlayStation's gonna manage to be able to deliver, the best stuff on a handheld. I mean, is it gonna be a handheld more suitable to you brought up, the games look like less than. Is that gonna be what their games are and are better suited for a handheld? The kind of handheld that they're gonna be bringing out?
I gotta imagine that Phil is very aware. He had made a comment about the Nintendo Switch before,
He did.
about the fact that they nailed it. They it was a very had great foresight, and they went ahead and made this device that did both and just really changed what's expected, right? Or if it's not expected by the mainstream, it is the place where you can see a huge uh I mean market shift. Look at how many people bought a Switch, right? They're up to 146 million Switches sold. The next Switch is going to play the same games as the Switch, so you're gonna have all backwards compatibility plus whatever's new. Like, these companies are in trouble as far as, what Nintendo plans to do is bring the same concept again, but with newer tech, right? Where they're able to actually get the latest games. I'm not gonna lie. Outside of the I forgot to click it, but Queen Blueface, she
Yes,
said that
my girl.
she loves her G Cloud, the Logitech G
Yes.
Cloud. It's amazing, right? Um, because it's through streaming, and streaming looks really, really good. The problem is, like, these handhelds that are out there, the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, right? These other ones, they're still compromised experiences
Mhm.
because they're running the PC version of these games and they're doing them, and they don't necessarily like if you play on the G Cloud streaming GeForce Now at the highest tier, you got something that looks stunning, right? On these handhelds, they're all like at medium, you know what I'm saying? Medium low. Sometimes some things you can put high, and like the frame rate, yeah, you can get around 60, but sometimes if you want to push it, make it nicer, you gotta settle for 30. It's not great. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like the OLED for Steam Deck looks great. Even then, like, it looks better now. I think they did a lot of updates, but I don't know. What
And
were you gonna say?
I hear you because there's always there and that's why I love the fact, and I know was messing with your mind right now because I do love the fact Phil did say that he's played them all and he kind of sees what's missing from each one. And this really excites me because the fact that he's paying attention to everything that's out there shows you what's going to go into the Xbox handheld and that they're not going to necessarily miss anything. So I'm very hyped about that. With that interview, what I got was a confirmation that they are making a handheld. So I was freaking thrilled. And that's not to say that we're not going to hear about it at the Game Awards, right? Maybe we will, right? It's just, and who knows when it is going to release, but that's been confirmed and we're going to hear about it sooner or later, right? But I think this is what's happening with you, See Money. That
What?
interview became a confirmation that this handheld is happening. And
Yeah.
before it was kind of like, oh, they're gonna be working on a handheld. I feel it. I think, but it was all speculation. But do you remember when Starfield was about to release? In like a week before, you got so hyped that you could not play another game until
Facts.
that game released. He was like, he just couldn't. He was
It's
like,
probably the
he
most
couldn't
hyped I've been
play.
for a game since
Yes,
Halo.
yes. So now that you know that Xbox is making a handheld,
I
it
can't
ain't
touch these
no
other
more.
handhelds.
Exactly.
These
That's what
other
you're going
handhelds
through
is
right
crap to
now. It's
me.
the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's very possible. It's very possible because I am very disenchanted with them. Like, I love the idea of the handheld, but it's like they ain't it, man. They ain't it. It doesn't run right. Like, it's different if I'm sitting down on my computer, I'm gonna play a game. I kind of understand the experience and I know what I got. But then, like my handheld, I never messed with handhelds back in the day. Like I had the Vita. I had the Vita and I used it. I did stream to the PlayStation 3 at the time. Black Flag, wherever Black Flag launched. I don't know if that was PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3. I don't remember. Time it's been a while. You're talking 2012.
Yeah.
No, it had to be PlayStation 3. So I was streaming Black Flag from the PlayStation 3 to the Vita. And that was the extent of my handheld experience. Like I know our son was on the had the Nintendo 3DS and all that crap, and they were all into it.
Yeah, the
You were into the
XL, the
handheld for a little
DV1,
bit,
yeah.
but I've never been like a handheld person. And then the Switch came,
And
and
Nintendo took it really far, by the way. They did a lot of
oh yeah,
the
3D. They did a
DS,
whole
the
bunch of stuff.
3DS, the XL.
Sadly, I think we're
They
done. I think we're done with experimental Nintendo.
Yes,
They found it. It's
absolutely.
done.
They
I think they
figured it out.
found the
The
this is the
formula, the
puzzle.
recipe.
Yeah, this is the piece of the puzzle that they
Yeah,
were missing, and it's done. So yes, the perfect recipe. There's no deviating from this. That's why I don't understand. Like, I cannot envision Xbox not doing this. I feel like you just be letting Nintendo have it. Why? Just do it. Copy the shit. Okay, because you're gonna bring it at a new level. You probably do it better if you're just gonna
absolutely.
do it. So do it, bro. You gotta. That
They're
being said,
talking, yes.
until the Switch came, like I really didn't mess with handhelds. And then the Switch came and Zelda came at the perfect time. It was like, wow, being able to play that on, I would never, ever, ever have been able to beat Zelda, right? I would never in my life
Spend the
sit
time
at a
that you did
console.
with it, yeah.
Yeah, I would never sit at a TV and play a Nintendo game. Like I never did. I never played Zelda on the screen, maybe once or twice, just as a let me see how it looks.
Not let me
Um,
play it through, yeah.
no, never, never. So that's the only reason I was able to beat these games. Mario? I haven't played Mario in a real way on my own since I was a kid, right? We've played it for, Madman when he was younger. He used to want us to play it and do all that stuff. But I never, ever, ever played a Mario. And then Mario
Like
on
you, let me
Switch was
sit here
just
and beat this game, yeah,
yeah, I was obsessed, right? I made it to the darkest whatever moon, and
yeah.
before my Nintendo Switch got wiped and everything went to hell.
Do you say Mario funny? Do I say like, every time
Mario?
you say Mario, someone types it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What am I missing?
But needless to say, like it wasn't until then that I like say, holy crap, like this is dope to be able to just play my console game. I'm not playing a lesser than game. I'm playing the same game that if I were to dock it, I would be playing. I'm just playing on the screen, right? And that really just opened it up for me where I was like, I love this. Like, this is great. Now, I don't use a Switch almost ever because time keeps moving forward and things look so much better and the Switch just can't compete. But the Switch 2, hell yeah, I'll be back getting a Switch 2 to play whatever the hell I really want to play Metro Prime 4, right? Point is Xbox needs to copy the shit. All right. That's just what it is. I don't know where I was going with it before then, but that's the reality.